welcome to the Education Dialogue brought to you by EduGist. And this is proudly powered by Speed Integrated Services. Today we are looking at a very important topic, educating teachers for the 21st century. Now, education is the cornerstone of development in every nation, and on the front line of this development drive are the teachers. Now, across the diverse players in the development chain, no profession is saddled with the task of changing, shaping minds, fostering critical thinking, and of course preparing the next generation to tackle the challenges of the 21st century, like teachers. Very, very noble profession. However, as Nigeria strives to improve educational outcomes, it's clear that empowering and equipping teachers with the right skills and resources is essential. Today, on this episode of the Education Dialogue, like I said earlier, we will be looking at educating teachers for the 21st century. And my guest is the CEO of an organization that have pioneered this and have shown that indeed the very best of young people in Nigeria can find themselves in the classroom. We will take a quick break, and when we come back, you will meet my guests.
Hello Lagos, join us every Thursday right here on Inspiration 92.3 FM from 3:30 to 4 p.m. for Education Dialogue by EduGist. On Education Dialogue, we bring together policymakers, education leaders, and parents to discuss issues, explore solutions, and drive positive change. With EduGist, education has a voice.
Yes, welcome back. That is why we do the Education Dialogue, to speak up for every child. But today, the topic on the Education Dialogue is educating teachers for the 21st century. My guest is Ayodele Olajiga. He is a certified executive and business coach with extensive experience as an investment banker. You want to know why he's in education? He's a management consultant and of course an entrepreneur. He graduated with a degree in electronics and electrical engineering from Obafemi Awolowo University. He equally holds an MBA from the Kellogg School of Management and a master in telecommunications from the New Jersey Institute of Technology. Mr. Olajiga, welcome to Education Dialogue.
Thank you very much.
Yes. We will start from the bottom up. Teach for Nigeria. Tell us a bit about it.
Well, Teach for Nigeria is an organization that is dedicated to eradicating education inequity everywhere across Nigeria. And the whole idea is, irrespective of every kid's socio-economic situation, they should have access to quality education. And so what we do is we recruit graduates and train them in an intense institute for about 6 weeks, and then they go into underserved communities to teach in classrooms for 2 years. In addition to support them, we also have a program that is an 8-month training program for school leaders, so that schools that we go into, in addition to having quality teachers in the classroom, we also support the school administration. And I mean, so far we have, we're in an 8 cohorts, so we have about 1,200 alumni. We've operated in Lagos, Ogun, Oyo, and Kaduna states. Direct impact-wise, we've touched about 200,000 students, but our ambition is obviously to touch about 1 million kids a year on an ongoing basis.
Super amazing. I needed our audience to know what Teach for Nigeria is,
Yes.
and that's why we started there. So if you just tune in, the program is Education Dialogue on Inspiration FM 92.3 FM, and with me is Mr. Ayodele, the CEO of Teach for Nigeria. So let's look at it this way. So why is continuous learning so crucial for teachers into the education setting? And this is taking a cue from the model for Teach for Nigeria. I was wondering if you were going to if you wanted career teachers, I don't think you have the impact that ideally should be. So why is continuous learning very important?
Well, I mean, if you just think about the environment we're in now, so first of all, ordinarily, life is always evolving. So as time goes on, things are changing. So it's always important in general to always be learning and learning new ways of doing things. But the society we're in now, things are moving rapidly. You have, artificial intelligence, you have technology, you have all of these different things that are happening. So if a teacher's role is to prepare a kid for the problems of today and the future, then it means by definition, you yourself, you have to continuously evolve. And that's why for us, if you find any classroom where the teacher is not evolving, then those kids, in my own opinion, are in a lot of trouble.
Awesome. So for me, what is interesting for Teach for Nigeria, because this is supposed to be a solution-focused program where we are not just talking about the program. Most of your fellow teach in rural schools.
Yes.
How has that adaptation been?
Well, I've been amazed in the sense that, because when we started having this conversation, about maybe 10 years ago, the question was always, could you get young Nigerian graduates to go into underserved areas to teach for 2 years, forgoing, other economic opportunities? But what we've seen is people go in there, right? They spend 2 years, and I think it's about 80% of our fellows remain in education. And so what I've realized is, 80%, yes, 80% of them remain in education. The remaining 20% are always doing something in and around it anyways. But what I've realized is, if you give people the opportunity and the platform, a significant chunk of this country wants to solve the education problem, because we all realize that if you don't solve it, then, we have a nation that will continue to, regress.
So I did quite a lot of work in preparation for the show, speaking to a lot of your fellows, and what I found is 3 in 5 of the people I spoke to, and this is quite a large number, about 60, don't have background in education. What has been, the tailored training that has been able to absorb them into education?
Okay, so with our program, we do 2 things. The first one is we have a 6 weeks, we call it pre-service institute, where they are immersed in, preparing them for the classroom, and that's around the curriculum, around how do you operate in your class, how do you get your kids to be engaged, and all of that. That's the first side. The second one is that going through our fellowship, you always end up with a diploma in education, and so that way, what happens is, so we partner with, we currently do, I think it's, I want to think it's Babcock and some other universities who we partner with to do the program. So that what that means is at the end of the 2-year fellowship, if you don't have an education degree, by the time you finish our fellowship, you will have both the qualification and you will have 2 years of experience actually teaching.
So in the course of this period, you have postgraduate diploma in education.
Yes, you get a diploma in education.
I like the way you opened talking about we are preparing kids for the 21st century, where you cannot predict, is continuously evolving. So let's talk about technology adaptation in education as it were today. What would be the best way that we can go about it as a country?
I think, so technology, we have to see technology as a tool. This version it is a tool. But what we found more interesting is, can we teach kids, how to think, in innovative ways? Because if you're unable to think, you can't solve problems. And I'll give you an example of one thing I saw in one of our fellows in one of the schools, which I thought was actually more exciting than even maybe whatever they're doing in the classroom. And this was a school where she got to the school. The kids had no desks, no seats. So you can imagine how are they learning. But she decided, look, we're not going to dwell on this. And she got the kids together and said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to start picking plastics around the community. We're going to get it together. And they got plastics together over time, sold it, and then built, the desk and the benches for everyone. And I was telling to some of my colleagues that, look, what I found interesting there is that in that process, what you've taught those kids, right, is that, look, you should, whenever you have a problem where you need something, look at what you've got in the environment and use what you have to create what you need without waiting for somebody else to do it. Because in reality, I mean, the government, whatever government or whoever was in charge of the school should have provided, desks and seats for the kids, Yeah, so for me, when you think about technology, the question is more about not technology itself, but application of technology to solve the problems that you are currently, having, and prepare for the future that you're about to face. So that's the way we say. We don't necessarily say, oh, you must have technology. It's more about what can we use technology to solve in whatever situation we find ourselves. Because in some of these schools, there's no energy, so talk less of internet or all of that stuff. So if you start attaching too much to technology, you will restrict yourself.
So indeed, adaptation is contextual, and
yes,
we don't have a lot of things. When we talk about tech adaptation in schools, we're looking at power, we're looking at internet, the quality, and then the cost of it. But we'll talk about more when we come back. We'll take a quick break. If you are just tuning in, the program is Education Dialogue, brought to you proudly sponsored by SCED Integrated Services. Just a quick break and we'll be back.
Hello Lagos, join us every Thursday right here on Inspiration 92.3 FM from 3:30 to 4 p.m. for Education Dialogue by EduGist. On Education Dialogue, we bring together policymakers, education leaders, and parents to discuss issues, explore solutions, and drive positive change. With EduGist, education has a voice.
Glad to have you back. The program has been Education Dialogue, reaching you from Inspiration 92.3 FM. And we have been talking with Mr. Ayodele Olajiga. He is the CEO of Teach for Nigeria, an impact organization with a fellowship that gets the best of Nigerian young people to teach in rural school for 2 years. You should check out the amazing work. 1,200 fellows, the big goal to impact 1 million people. How amazing can that be? Mr. Ayodele, let's look at the success story so far. From the schools, the fellows, and of course to you as an organization.
Okay, I mean, since inception in 2017, we have impacted over 200,000, students, and that's both in primary and secondary school. Yeah, we placed about 1,500 fellows in 635 schools, with about over 1,000 of them having graduated. Now, but what's more interesting is that we've partnered with RAND Corporation in the US and in conjunction with Teach for All, which is a global body, and we've conducted research to see, look, what kind of impact are we having in the classroom? And the results have been, folks, the students where the classes where we have our fellows, they've gained about an additional 2 to 3 months in literacy and 2 to 5 months in numeracy. And, the example I gave before the break, which is, I like all of this, literacy and numeracy. But the thing is, if we are able to start to teach kids how to think and solve problems, where they start to become more dependent and contributors to society, I think for me, those kind of stories are actually more exciting for me than the numeracy and the literacy, even though we're having significant impact in that area. The one area where, what we're sitting on, where I think at some point we will hit the tipping point, I'm not sure when it is that we're building an army of people who have an education leadership consciousness. So we have all these alumni who are spending 2 years in underserved areas, going there, doing amazing things, and then moving into our fellowship. We're now growing them at a rate of about almost 500 a year. And what's going to happen is at some point, I think we would have a large army of people in the education space that will overwhelm the current system, in a good way, of course, because suddenly they start to demand more. They start to demand things like we change the way we teach, we change what we are teaching, and we start to teach to prepare kids for the problems of today and tomorrow, not necessarily following a curriculum that may have or not have anything to do with whatever is happening in society.
So thank you so much. So I understand you are in 4 states now.
Well, we are currently in Lagos and Ogun. We have done work in Kaduna and Oyo states, but right now we're currently in Lagos and Ogun states.
What is the plan to expand?
Well, so we have this idea around, look, So we've got Teach for Nigeria. How did Teach for Nigeria come about? About 5 of us came together about 10 years ago, had this issue. We found a model that we felt, look, this model could actually allow us attract young people into education, give them the consciousness, they become leaders, and suddenly they want to solve the problem. And now the question is, how do we go to the pace at which we're going? It takes us a long time to get to the whole of the country. But the question now is, look, what if we could get a similar group of people, right, in every state of the country, across the country, to do the same thing simultaneously, right? So suddenly we're now saying, look, we've dubbed it TFNX, and the idea is, can we build Teach for Nigeria, but now replace the Nigeria with the state? So Teach for Lagos, Teach for Kaduna, Teach for Kano. Can we build it across the country? And the mission of each and every one of this is about eradicating education inequity. And so that's why I said at the beginning that our goal is that we want to reach 1 million kids every year. The only way you do that is if you are present across the country. And so that's the plan. We have the strategy, we started the process, and we're now looking for partners. So, if anyone is listening and you have a passion for education in your state, reach out to us.
Yes, if you are listening in, I think I like it, TFNX, a very brilliant model that we can adopt, especially I don't want to sound political correct, but if you look at the model of what TFN is doing outside Kaduna, I think that really every state in the north should have, a model of something like this.
Yeah, well, it's across the country. I think, inequity exists across the country. In some places worse than others, and what we are doing at the moment is for people who have access to get quality education. If we start talking, we can stay here all day. If we start talking about those who don't have access, I think we have, the last number I saw is 20 million kids out of school. Yes. So that means for them, we're not even talking about quality. They don't even have access at all. So the problem is, anyone listening should understand that, look, we have a genuine, a serious crisis in the education sector, and we cannot leave it for government alone. Everyone needs to get involved to solve it because it affects all of us.
Brilliant. So, everybody actually should be part of this. I wanted to go back while preparing for this show. I read an article this morning from Wendy, the CEO of Teach for All.
Yes.
When she was talking about how you identify these young people that do this amazing work, but literally they want to run out of the social sector because it's not paying them well enough.
Yes.
They want to go to energy, they want to go to gas, they want to go to telecom. And here, from the Nigerian model, from what you have said, 80% remains in education. Because I work here, I'm a testament to that. I see people like School Linker. This is a project that has brought out of Teach for Nigeria. But what can we really do to keep young people within the social space using education as a use case?
Well, look, first of all, my deep respect and appreciation goes to every teacher across the country, because when you look at what teachers are paid, it literally makes no sense for anyone to do it. So you almost have to have that passion for educating people, passion for working with kids to be in education, right? And now what we're seeing is, look, let's create the platform. Let these fellows, let them develop the passion for it, and then they would figure out ways to create opportunities to make this very lucrative for them. But in the first instance, I think, if I was in charge of any big budget in Nigeria, we should be funneling it into education. Obviously improve the welfare of teachers. That's very important. But we cannot, how do I explain? We that were getting involved to try to solve this problem can't lead with, I need to figure out a way to pay people more, because that's not in our remit. But we want to attract brilliant people into the sector because they will come up with amazing solutions to drive the change that we're looking for.
Awesome. I think the next call will be, Teach for Nigeria has done it, but your graduation of fellow and induction was last week.
Yes.
Yet, so Teach for Nigeria, their fellows are prepared for the next academic session.
Yes.
Because school is going to resume in a few weeks.
Yes.
What can we do for public education? What is the in-training that is happening during this summer? We are sending our kids to summer classes. What are we doing for teachers? When we come back, we will answer that. We'll take a quick break, and the program has been Education Dialogue.
Hello Lagos. Join us every Thursday right here on Inspiration 92.3 FM from 3:30 to 4 p.m. for Education Dialogue by EduGist. On Education Dialogue, we bring together policymakers, education leaders, and parents to discuss issues, explore solutions, and drive positive change. With EduGist, education has a voice.
Good to have you back. The program has been Education Dialogue, reaching you from number one family radio Inspiration 92.3 FM. My name is Elvis Boniface, and I have with me Ayodele Olajiga. He is the CEO of Teach for Nigeria. Before the break, we are asking, what is the preparation for teachers for the new academic session? Just in 2 weeks, most schools across the country, they are resuming September 4. What can we really do from a public sector perspective to upskill these people?
Well, I mean, the only way to upskill is to train, So we, for instance, till date, we've trained about 19,000 teachers working with organizations like Profuturo out of Spain, and also T.Y. Danjuma Foundation, who invest in, training teachers. And so what it is, like we said earlier, continuous learning. You've got to, when the break comes, you've got to, train teachers on, new ideas, new concepts. During the school year, you have a system in which you observe what's going on, you pick up where the gaps are, and you constantly then evolve your training to help them. So if you look at our fellows, for instance, we do 6 weeks of training in the institute. Each group of fellows have coaches that work with them. The coaches visit them in school. They have WhatsApp group where they're exchanging ideas and they're asking questions. And that's the same thing that's got to happen with teachers. There's no, silver bullet. The only way you get better is through training. And that training is got to be, the system is got to invest in training. And then you as an individual also have to do self-development. But there's no other way to do it other than train. And so, there are corporate organizations out there who can do what the likes of, T.Y. Danjuma are doing, which is to invest in, training teachers.
So I was curious about the partnership for training, because the topic is educating teachers for the 21st century. You mentioned Babcock University, no marketing. Could you mention some other university you partner for your service training?
No, so we've done with Babcock, we've done something with Corona. I think we are now exploring doing with some of the public universities. The concern with the public universities is that, if ASU strikes happen.
So that was what that's where I'm driving to, because this is where the chunk of the work needs to be done. Public schools, we have not partnered with them. What we find is literally every university, we have 111 of them currently in the country, private, public. All of them literally have faculties of education.
Yes.
In Lagos, a lot of the colleges of education have been converted into universities of education.
Yes.
1-2 things that you think can be infused to make these things work?
I think, so first of all, we work in public schools, so, primary and secondary. For the universities, I think for universities in Nigeria, we just need to find a new funding model. The current funding model that relies on government doesn't work. And, the universities have to evolve, because education costs quite a bit. And you have to pay professors very well, you have to provide all kinds of infrastructure, and that costs money. So waiting for, subvention from government as a way to, run universities, I think is a failed model, and we need to figure out another way of doing it.
Ayodele Olajiga.
No, it's Ayodele.
Olajiga, CEO Teach for Nigeria. Thank you for being on the Education Dialogue.
Thank you for having me.
Lagos, that will be our show for this week. The repeat broadcast, recorded edition of this show can be found on our website, www.edugis.org. And this program is proudly brought to you by Skip Integrated Services. Check them out, their shops, and everywhere. If you're in the airport, Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, why not get the uniform for resumption? This time again next week. Have a good evening.